This is our first episode. We are super excited. This is Rebecca. She's my girlfriend. We've been together for almost 8 months now.
Yeah, it'll be 8 months in a few days.
Yeah, and she is the new co-host of this. And when I say new, the whole thing is new. This is an older channel that I've had up, and there's some videos still in there. But we wanted to do something that was a little bit more special, a little bit more difficult maybe to talk about certain things. But we just think that there's so much negativity in the world, so many things that are just there to kind of, there's no hope, it really seems like. And we thought, why not turn this channel into a podcast where we can bring on guests, we can talk to each other, and we can really just speak life into this world, just, and we pray that, whatever we're saying is just truly going to help someone out there and really just spread that joy, spread Jesus. That's the whole goal of this. So yeah, we're just going to be vulnerable, and it's super exciting. This is our first episode. It's going to probably be one of the only episodes where it's just her and I. So we thought, what better way than to start off talking about relationships? Because there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people who might be in a relationship or looking for a relationship, and they're like, well, I'm a Christian or whatever, and how do I find a relationship that, God wants for me? Or do I stay in one? Do I leave one? Whatever. So here we are.
Here we are.
First episode. This is super exciting. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Beck.
Okay, obviously, as you know, my name's Rebecca. I work at a vet currently. For the longest time, that's what I wanted to do with my life, was get in the vet field, go to school for it. Because in high school I had schooling to be a nurse, so I was just so ready for that. But then I kind of just sat back and realized I cannot deal with a human dying. Like, I cannot do it. And it just saddened me. So I was like, you know what? I'll mix it with animals. I started working at a vet. I had a whole thing going on. Now it's cosmetology. So
really, what made you change your mind on that?
Well, okay, so I really don't want to go to school for 8 to 10 years. Yeah.
I don't want to pay for your school.
Yeah. But anyways, so I really didn't want to go to school for that long, for one. And two, kind of just being in the field and just seeing, if I had to cut an animal's arm off or, something like that. I've seen surgeries. I've seen a lot of different things happen and a lot of different experiences. But I just thought about those main things, and I was like, I just cannot do it.
Yeah.
And especially, the schooling, too, and it being so expensive. And I just feel like I was lost in what career to do for so long that I just want to get it going. And I always grew up in high school, in my family, just being the girl that did everybody's hair. And
so that's why. Is that the reason why?
Yeah, I really love doing hair. I love all these different hairstyles. I love doing people's hair. Everyone's like, oh, Rebecca, can you braid my hair? Can you straighten my hair? Can you wash my hair? I wash.
Well, they say do what you love. I mean,
yeah.
And the coolest thing is that, and we've heard this in church multiple times, your career path doesn't define you, or your job title does not define you. What defines you is Jesus and you being a child of him. And so, there was a sermon I think it was at your church, we heard is I'm not a hairdresser. I'm a hairdresser that loves Jesus, or I'm a hairdresser that's a son of God.
Yeah.
So therefore, and I think that's a great environment to be able to kind of talk to people. What do you do? Yes, you do hair, but girl, you talk, and you talk and you talk and you talk. So it's a great place to just have those conversations. It's really exciting that you'd be able to kind of, in a sense, work for yourself in some ways. If that was something that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And God willing, that happens for us. But because I'd love to get free haircuts too and learn. You learn how to do my hair.
I already shape them up. I
hope Jonathan's not watching this. He's my hair.
He'll be okay. Jonathan, you alright?
But that's awesome. As for me, I'm in college in my senior year right now. Going to a liberal arts college as a Christian is difficult, just because you've got a lot of opinions being shouted out, and it honestly, I think a lot of times it could going to a college like that as a Christian, maybe even a wavering Christian, just kind of like trying to figure things out, that could be a big, hoop to jump through, or maybe just a hurdle. Like, how do I like hold on to my faith here with all these different opinions and different things?
Yeah.
But I think for me personally, it's made my relationship with God even stronger going to a college where Jesus really is not talked about. It's not, and so it's kind of cool because I'm like, well, when I see the type of people there, first off, I'm like, well, I want to make an impact in their life. So, maybe this video will hit some of them, which would be really cool. But you kind of watch the way, their mannerisms, the way that they act and stuff, and you're like, like, I can see, if I really looked into your past the way Jesus is able to look at us and just know our past, maybe I'd be able to learn more about you. And I'm sure there's probably some stories there and different things. Yeah. But the coolest thing about it is that I think it gets me prepared for the world. I love the idea of going to a Christian college, but at the same time, I'm like, well, the world is not full of Christians. It's got a lot of people who love Jesus, but it is not full of Christians. And so it's like, well, what better way to get prepared for the world that I'm going to deal with than to go to a place where most people are worldly and just kind of like living through those lenses. So in that way, I think I've kind of grown and been like, okay, so I'm getting a good idea of what it would be like to be out there in the real world and just kind of hear those things. But I'm going as a business major. That's the goal, is to just kind of do something business oriented. I want God to lead me in that decision. There's been ideas that I've had of creating a gym with the theme of God, the theme of the Bible kind of principles, and just creating a cool space where people can come and they're working out, but they've got the worship music playing and they've got different stories around them from the Bible. I think it would be super cool, but I don't really know what my plan is. I just want to make sure that my eyes are up, because then I know that maybe I'll be able to follow the direction that God wants me to go. Now, I don't remember if you know this, but obviously this channel was named Jonas Motley. Now it's At the Cross Podcast, and we talked a little bit about the name and why we named it that. Do you remember? Could you tell our viewers why it's called At the Cross?
I actually don't remember, because
okay.
You came up with it.
It's okay. No, I remember we talked about it a little bit, but I think At the Cross was perfect, because I think we're not God, right? We're not Jesus. We're just two humans, two failed sinners that have messed up, but we want to turn our eyes towards him. But we're getting to tell our stories and tell different things to other people out there who are just as broken as we are, or just going through just as much. And so at the cross, I've heard so many people use this analogy, and you've probably heard this before, some of you, but we've got the vertical post of the cross.
Oh, okay.
And we've got the horizontal.
Yes, sir, we do.
Talk about it.
Okay. No,
you can't. You said, oh.
No. I get where you were getting at, but I feel like you are so much better.
Well, I mean, I don't want to listen. Okay.
Your time to shine. Go for it, babe.
I thought of At the Cross because I'm thinking, first of all, this is a faith-based podcast. That's what this is for. But the vertical post represents, especially for me, a lot of other people look at it this way. That, obviously it's what Jesus was crucified on. But the vertical post represents you looking up, that relationship between you, yourself, and Jesus. And then that horizontal post is, now that you've got this up and down, your relationship, the horizontal relationships with others around you. It has your eyes now looking around you. And now you're like, okay, how can I impact other people with what I've learned with my relation with Jesus? So it's a full circle, right? Your relationship with God now impacting the people that you're around. And so we thought, okay, well, no one has this perfect, I've got all the pieces together, but as we're pursuing a relationship with God, why not create something where we can hit the horizontal, right?
See, you nailed that. But that was so good.
So that's that right there. I thought, why not just, and you know what? It also sums up the greatest commandment. Jesus says the greatest commandment is love God and love neighbors as yourself. And so therefore we love God and we're loving our neighbors by what we're able to talk about.
Amen.
So that's why we did that. we did do that. She obviously signed off on it, otherwise it wouldn't be up there. But
it was like we talked about the podcast and the next day. So I have a name.
Yeah.
Or it wasn't even the next day. It was like an hour or so before.
She was like, "Oh, I like that."
I do like it. It's awesome. It's
but
amazing.
oh my gosh. So we did say we were going to talk about relationships a little bit. So we've heard, and I actually made a video about this. Who knows if people are going to watch it? About true love not too long ago. And I brought up 1 Corinthians 13, which for those of you out there who don't know, it is a very important passage that Paul writes to us about what love means, what the definition of it is. And I thought, since I have my phone here, I could pull it up for us, because we can do that. This is our podcast. And so I'm going to read this because I think it's important that it's also always a good reminder for us to read this, but to others. Oh, wow, I'm already on 1 Corinthians. It's a great reminder to us, and it's just a big, here we go. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 4. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable. We've all been irritable. And it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. That right there is the biblical term, like the definition of love. Now, let me ask you something, Rebecca. Do you see that in this world? Is that what the world says love is?
No, not at all. Like, at all. I feel like even just being a girl and, like, growing up in public school and, like, being on TikTok, for Pete's sake, I feel like, and this is just me talking as a girl, but, and just having friends who, or used to have friends who thought this way, but, I feel like it's all looked at as some sort of, like, Disney movie.
Oh, yeah, the Hallmark stuff. Yeah.
You have a true love. You, like, Cinderella, for Pete's sake.
It gives you the butterflies.
Loses her shoe. Yeah. And then this, like, prince comes along and, like, puts her shoe, like, I don't know.
And then it's true love.
Yeah. And for a while, I used to believe in true love. I did. And
hold on, no. True love exists.
Yeah. Okay. I, like,
but
switched
the
that
idea,
around.
The
idea of it was that people were, it was just all a fairy tale to everyone. Like, everyone was so, like, my guy, the person that's for me is going to have this, he's going to have this, he's not going to treat me this way.
He's got money.
Yeah, like, he's got money,
fun.
He's going to have this colored hair, like, he's going to buy me all these things.
For
like,
the guys out there, I already covered it for you. Oh, she looks bad, or she looks fit, or she's beautiful, or our kids are going to look great, or she is considerate. She does things for me. Yeah. And it's always, and you know what's so funny about that?
She cooks.
No. You know what's so funny about that is literally Jesus shows us that love is about what you can provide for someone else. Mm-hmm. And the world's love is exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
When they're sitting there talking about the love relationship they're in, it's, well, he does this, they do this, she does this, like, for me, and so I love her for that. Or I'm with this person, and they might not outright say it, but the reality is they're looking at all the boxes that person checks for them.
Yeah.
They're thinking about themselves, right? And I think as Christians, especially if you're single, those single periods, oh my gosh, they are so important. And I learned that before I met her, that those single periods are honestly a blessing from God. Because first of all, if you're single and you don't have a Christian, beautiful Christian girl in your life, that means you're not ready. Or Christian boy, by the way, beautiful Christian boy. You're not ready, which means God might be preparing that person and you for that. But yeah. I think that those are such great seasons where that is that time to say, okay, I'm working on who God wants me to be so that when I go into a relationship, I'm less focused on are my needs being met and more focused on do I have what this person needs? Am I there for them, right? Yeah. Jesus, for the church, he was the bride, or the church was the bride, and he was the groom. And so he laid down his life for us, like the church. And so that relationship is supposed to, and Paul talks about how that relationship is supposed to kind of transfer over and be on the same level as a husband to a wife, and what the husband and the sacrifice that comes with being a husband to the wife. Yeah. And so I think that that's super important, that we realize relationships are not just about us. It's important to realize it's a different story with abuse, obviously, or being used, or realizing that you are not actually in a healthy relationship. And I think we've both been in those. So I think that's a little bit different. But God's also, if you're actually in those single or periods of your time when you are hopefully focused on Him and really putting your trust in Him, then He's going to steer you. Oh my gosh. Can I say something real quick? I know I've been going for a second.
You're good.
I love seeing those reels where somebody's like, I want to be so invested in God, in my relationship with Him, that the only time I look down is when He says, look, that's her. Because so many times, oh my gosh, and this has been me, and I know this has been you, we've talked about it, so many times we get it reversed and we say, I'm going to find that special someone, and then I'll lock in with them on God. But we got to prepare ourselves for that relationship. Otherwise, we're kind of setting each other up to fail. And that doesn't mean that God leaves the picture when you get in the relationship. He should be there even stronger in spirit between the two of you. But that really does, a relationship really starts when you're single. It really does, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sorry, I just love hearing you talk.
Well, I want to hear what you have to say about love.
I know you do. Honestly, if I'm going to be really vulnerable for a second, I don't think I really understood the true meaning of love until this relationship.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that makes two of us, because I knew what 1 Corinthians 13 meant, and there might have been some. I knew, obviously, I've known Jesus, and I've had that relationship with Him.
Yeah, same.
But I don't think that this goes back to, and I love this. I love that I can think back to sermons where I've heard things said, and I'm like, man, that impacted me. But similar to our life with Jesus, right? Think about Him as a guest in your house, right? And your house is this body you have, this spirit. And you say...
My stomach keeps growling. I really hope nobody can hear that.
Your mic cannot pick that up. There's no way.
Okay.
But, if you want to do one of these right here.
You don't even have to cut that out.
Hold it down. Oh, we're not cutting nothing. This is raw right here.
Okay.
Just as raw as those grumbling and tumblings.
I literally ate before this, guys. Like, I'm not...
That's why it's happening.
Okay.
But anyways, so...
Just a Big Mac.
Just think about your body as like your home, right? It's your place. And say you ask Jesus into your heart. Say you invite Him to your house as a guest. And we've all done this when we have guests over. The house is a mess. So we take everything that we have that should not be there, should not be out, and we throw it in the closet.
Yeah.
And we close the door, and we say, all right, it's ready. And we let Jesus in, and He's like, this is beautiful, but I want to go in that closet. And we say, no, Jesus, you don't want to go in that closet. Like, that one, it's got a lot of stuff. I don't want you going through that. Let's not worry about it. And that's the problem, is unlike any other house guest who might say, yeah, I'm going to stay away from that closet. I don't want to see what's in there. He's saying, no. I want to be the light in every part of your life. Mm-hmm. Whether that's the music you listen to or the relationships you have with other people, all of those different rooms in your houses, it's endless. Just all those different things, just the words you use, those kind of things. He wants to be there. And so if you kind of have, and we all have probably had that closet where we're like, no, look, that's my thing. For me, for a long time, I was ready to give everything to Jesus, but I said, dude, don't touch my music. Like, I like it. I really don't think it impacts my relationship with you. I'm going to listen to this rap. I'm going to listen to the words, whatever. I don't think it matters. And it makes me feel good. Well, there's one of the problems. It makes me feel good. I'm worried about me. And also, for a while, I didn't want to open that closet. That sermon helped me change that. but also I think it has to do with love too. You've got love there as your home, and you're like, well, I'll trust this person with this part of my life. I'll be this kind of way with them, but I don't want to get vulnerable about that. Or I don't want to make that a priority for us, because I know that's what we're supposed to do when we love someone, but like that's hard for me. Or based on the way I was raised, I don't think I should do that. There again, we kind of have a closet we're wanting to keep to ourselves. And I think we've all had that. I've had that in other relationships. And girl, you and God have put a working on me. Oh my goodness. So, but I know that I've probably done the same to you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, man, let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
Okay, where should we start?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, and I know this might be hard for you to talk about, because the thing is, like, for me, I just talked about the music. That was one of the first things, or one of the last things I really think that, I mean, we battle every day against sin, but that was one of the things where I don't know if you can count listening to that music as a sin. I don't know if it's a sin of itself, but what you're doing is allowing the devil to really tempt you in certain areas by the stuff you're allowing into yourself. So I think that was happening to me. But I know in this relationship, as we first started out, you said you've been kind of on this journey towards Christ for almost 2 years. You've known about him, right?
Yeah.
But now you're really getting to know him.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously that comes with a lot of hidden closets, or closets we close. So when we first started talking, what was your view on music and movies, entertainment in general?
Okay, so I would say for music, very secular. Very, like, not good things, not talking about men in the right way, not talking about being a good follower of God at all. I don't think I ever I don't think Christian music was even in my mix.
Right.
Like, at all. I mean, every once in a while, like, on my way to church or, like, something like that, it was, it was a thing every once in a while, but in my head, I was like, like, I'm not thinking about it. Like, I'm not, like, I know I love Jesus, so I'm still going to continue to listen to this because it's fine. Like, it's not going to affect anything. Well, that's not true. And for me, personally, and I know you know this, but, like, I am so bad about listening to lyrics. Like, even in songs now, it's really hard for me. Like, I have to sit there and, like, really just look at my phone or, like, pay attention and have nothing else going on in order for me to really pay attention to what's being said in a song. And, so, like, there would be songs that would just be absolutely, oh my gosh, what's
really
the word?
Vulgar. They're vulgar. Yeah.
Yes, and like all these, even now, I see so many songs just completely like talking so bad about like Christianity and just like outing God and just like all these different events, and it's insane.
I'm gonna out you here for a second, but I remember the first week we started talking, I was actually 10 hours away from you in New York with my cousin and my other family at the lake. And we were texting a bunch, and I remember, like, I was in the car with him listening to Andy Mineo, which is a Christian hip-hop artist. And I was like, man, this song's awesome. Like, I'm talking to this girl, so I sent it to you. And I said, what do you think?
Gosh, this is so bad.
I said, what do you think? And she goes, well, and you said something like this, not word for word. You're like, well, it just sounds too much like the other stuff, so, like, I don't really like it. Like,
oh my gosh. Okay,
do you remember that?
Yes, let me say this, because my brother, he still does, but I would get in the car with him, we'd go to Cookout or whatever, and get a milkshake, and he's playing, like, he had Lecrae, and he had KB, and just I feel like people, I said those, so I feel like people know more who they are, they're
Christian
more of the popular
artists.
ones, but he was playing those songs, and I was like, I was so used to listening to, like, all these, like, bad songs and the cussing and, like, that's all I knew. So, like, exchanging it into something that was, like, glorious and, like, full of God and, like, stuff like that, I just couldn't connect, but
Yeah.
I was also still new. But
Right. So, but like that when I said like what I was trying to get at was that's what you said to me, and I didn't know much about you. We were just getting to know each other, and I
yeah,
was like, oh, I mean, okay, like this is something I grew up on. So like I was like, okay, well, I guess maybe she just listens to worship music. Like that's what she listens to on the normal basis. And when we went to the gym for the first time, and I found out that's not true. That you were listening to more secular stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, I was sitting there thinking to myself when I saw the songs, I was like, I'm so confused right now. You won't listen to the stuff that sounds similar to the stuff you're listening to because it sounds like it. But you'll listen to the real stuff, like the real secular stuff. And I was so confused.
yeah.
But you know what? It wasn't my place to sit there and tell you, hey, you cannot listen to that. I do remember truthfully opening up to you and saying, hey, look, I remember listening to that stuff. Just listen to the lyrics. Listen to it and say, does that honor God? And then I said, me personally, it does make me feel uncomfortable hearing it. So I said to you, if you want to play it, I prefer you play it when it's not around me. Because that's something I've already kind of like gotten over on my own in my relationship. I said, I need to put that to rest. So I did. And you know what? It took you maybe a month and you were gone. It was gone. It was erased from her library. There was nothing there. And she was saying stuff like, send me over your playlist. Send me over your songs.
And I
Make a
still
playlist.
do.
Yeah. And you rock
He's
it.
got years worth of songs in his
I
phone.
got a lot
I'm
of
like,
songs. Yeah. You're like, I didn't know this stuff existed.
yeah.
But it's awesome. So that's really cool. I noticed that was probably one of the biggest things that just like at the beginning, it was like, that was just a little bit new for us to kind of have that interaction and be like, well, why does it matter? Well, it matters because of this, blah, blah, blah.
That was a game changer for me. Like, now I'm in the car, like, listening to
Oh
all
my
this
gosh.
Christian rap.
She'll
I'm
pull
like,
up to my house right after
"Dun-dun-dun!"
me, and I can hear the word for word lyrics outside of the car. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what she's listening to.
Got it
But
good.
and we got our KB fix at Winter Jam earlier.
Yeah, we did.
But so that's really cool. That was a big step for us in a relationship. And you know what? I think it took two people. Because here's the thing is you don't want to be controlling in a relationship. You want to be influential. And so I might have been through something, and there might be something that comes along as well that you've been through in your relationship with God that I'm struggling with. And you say, hey, look, I've been there. I've put that to rest, or that's something that I've had to open my closet and let Jesus come in and figure that out for me. But I just want to share that with you. And maybe that happens to you too, or maybe that's something that's puts on your heart. So I think that's the cool thing about a relationship is just like it says in Genesis, I mean, God made woman for man, and to live this life together, to do this together. And, you know, I think that's a great example of how we kind of did that.
Yeah.
So we've had to remind ourselves a lot recently that we're a team, you know?
Yeah. I think you'd be doing good, though.
Hey, don't get too confident. Look,
Okay.
Because you know what?
Devil's
I realized?
coming after us after this one.
Man, the devil wants to destroy, kill, steal, and destroy.
He
Right?
does, y'all. He does.
So,
oh my gosh.
Those those relationships out there that might not be trying their best to glorify God or might be living kind of in darkness, they're going to break on their own because they don't have truth involved.
Yeah.
But Satan doesn't really need to waste his time on that.
Or they're so, like, almost brainwashed by, like, being that way by Satan. They're just like, okay, whatever.
Back to what you said about
you
true
can,
love.
Like, it's, like, some people think it's, like, normal to, like, cheat and, like, go and, like, do all these things because they're so brainwashed by that. And, like, they're so used to it and, like, being around that community and stuff. Like, it's normal for those people.
It's movies, it's TV, it's music. You hear these, dude, hearing, like, oh, I gave him a break. I gave him a hall pass. I let her go do this. Just because I feel like it's healthy. It's sickening. It really is, to be honest with you. But at the same time, as Christians who are trying to, gather wisdom, we also have to say, this is something Paul had to say to churches as he was writing, is wisdom. I mean, we have wisdom because we're in the light. God has shown us the way to live.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, like you said, brainwashed, they're living in darkness because they don't know the truth. We hear so much, this is my truth, but we're not living based on his truth. And so that's why I wanted to bring this up again. I loved this.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. You haven't even read that yet.
Oh, I read it, but I want to break
okay.
this down, okay? First of all, love is patient and kind.
Mm-hmm.
Are we always patient and kind with each other? No. But I do think that the moment we say to each other, and this is something we just started doing, we will get together before we know that we might need to talk about something that's hard or difficult. And we'll say, hey, Joe, Beck, are you spiritually ready to handle this? Are you spiritually ready to talk about this? Because, and I want you to talk about this too. Like, seriously, I want you to get in on this because you know exactly where I'm going at with this, but I'm going to set you up for this. We are a team, and therefore we're asking each other these questions because we're not trying to hurt or beat. We're not here to beat the other person. We're not at a competition.
Mm-hmm.
Our competition is against the enemy. And so when we're on the same page and we're both ready, can I use a metaphor? I'm going to use a metaphor for a second, and then I'm going to let you take this. You ready?
Okay.
Can you imagine, and if for the guys out there, women too, can you imagine if you're a woman, maybe a choreography, or for a sport, guys, girls, there's a play, right? And you guys all know the play. Everyone's supposed to do their job. And someone walks in off the bench because they need to be a fill spot. And they don't know the play. And y'all run the play. You all know that they don't know the play, but you run it anyways. And when the play's over, and because they didn't do their job, it was not successful. And you look at them and you say, dude, you're the issue, or you're the problem. And they're like, but you did not help me be at the same, like, you did not help me be on your team. You did not help me have what I needed to succeed. So if I was to come to you and try and bring up something that we needed to talk about, and you or I was not spiritually ready to handle it or talk about it, then we're going to fail. Like, we're going to sit there and use our words. We're going to use our flesh to talk about it.
Yeah. And honestly, like, that's something that, just like he said, has been very new for us. Like,
yes,
obviously, there's a lot of learning and growing that happens in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's always going to be like that until we go to heaven. Like, we were not made on earth to be perfect ever. Only God is. And I just think that's so important for people to keep in mind, because I feel like we are just even going back to, like, the movie thing, and, like, I feel like everybody is so, and I was just telling him earlier, like, when we were about getting ready to do this, about how, like, I feel like I cracked the code a little bit because I was so different. Like, in my mind, I was like, I felt like my soulmate, when I believed in true love and, like, all that stuff, I was like, he should know. Like, I literally thought, like, God would make him, like, he should be able to know, like, what I'm thinking, like, whatever, if he was really meant for me. Mm-hmm. And that is so opposite. That is so, like, really getting into the word and, like, really just knowing, like, what love is and understanding that from the perspective of being a Christian and, like, being in this Christian relationship. Like, it is so important to just come together and to just talk about everything, like, no matter if it's this big or this big, and just being ready for it. Because imagine, like, we don't sit there and I might have a stressful day at work, or, like, you are doing your woodworks and, like, something just isn't going right and we didn't have the time to talk about it, and all of a sudden we're just like, hey, so I think it's really important for me to just sit here and, like, bring this up because, like, it's been bothering me, whatever. Whoa.
It catch the other person off guard. They're not ready.
That's a lot.
They're disarmed. Yeah.
So I definitely feel like that has been a really good thing for us, just in every way possible, and hopefully.
I love that. I love that we've been doing that. And and when you told me this earlier, it was because I put this outfit on, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, you go back to,
we can get into that, actually.
Talk about, like, I mean, what made you, first of all, because, go ahead, what did you say to me?
Okay, so we were getting ready. Obviously, we had gone to the gym right before this, so we were still, like, showering and stuff like that, and I just, like, saw the outfit that he put on. And, you know, he got a lot of new clothes for Christmas, like, so he's been majority wearing all of that lately. But, so he got this, like, a few months before Christmas, but I just looked at him and I was like, I love your outfit. Because I love this outfit. Like, ever since he got it, just the camo pants, they just get me every time. I just love it.
You've been saying that more and more to me recently, and I know a while back we kind of sat down on FaceTime, and we talked about our love languages, which was a big help.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like, I think before I told you that my love language was like words like that,
Yeah.
that I didn't hear it much. So like, what was that because your love language is different? Like, do you think that, because I think my personal opinion on this is that you kind of treat people with love, or like you show your love to others the way that you also enjoy like feeling loved.
Yeah.
So, for example, in my personal experience with you, not that I don't give you acts of service, but like mine is definitely words of affirmation. And so
and that's what you're used
therefore, it's what I'm used to, it's what I grew up in. And so therefore I am the first one to sit there and say like, you're beautiful, I love you, like just encouragement with my words. And so I didn't even think about the fact that, oh, she also really enjoys acts of service, because that's not necessarily something that I long for, but it is for her. And so when we expressed this to each other and we had this conversation, I learned that about you.
Yeah, and honestly for me, just learning yours, and that I was so used to like doing things for people. Like he had to talk to me sometimes about how like I just needed to slow down because I'm like, I'm so like, I'll clean your room, like I'll do all this, I'll do all that. And so just sitting there looking at him and being like, I love you so much. And like I'm just but like me sitting there just looking at him and like being open with him and just showing him so much about like how much I love him, and just reminding him how much he's done for me, and just this relationship and stuff like that. It's just, that's really
that was good growth for us. Like, but that is, so what you said earlier, you just said you liked my outfit, and that meant a lot. And so, and you literally went on Rampage. You're like, I'm realizing now, like, I've had it backwards, and you were going on and on, like you just said about like, I just need to talk more.
I feel like I understand men now.
Yeah.
Both of us.
yeah, but I mean,
which obviously there's a lot more aspects.
But
to that,
you know what? I mean, like that's really cool. That's growth. But so there again, we're gonna go back to this. Love is patient and kind. First off, I want to start off by saying this verse, man. I've been, or this passage, I've heard this since I was a kid. Being told this by my mom. Whether it was about friends, relationships, even our family. And I think that, I mean, even at the beginning of our relationship, it was very rocky at the beginning, and it's supposed to be. Dating's not always fun. Yeah. If you think, and that's the other thing with love, if you think that you're gonna date someone and it's always just gonna be fun and perfect, they're exciting, they're this, it's gonna be fun the whole time. If you are marrying that person, you are up for a surprise, because it's not going to be as fun. The hard work comes in the dating part. It really does.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're having to learn is like, first off, I got to learn about this person, but also I'm going to live with this person one day. Like I have to learn and like learn to love the way that they need to be loved.
I want to add on to that.
Go.
But I feel like when it comes to stuff like that, like me and him, and like you and your partner, whoever's watching, but like we grew up in completely different lives, completely different households, an hour away.
Yeah.
And like completely different locations, stuff like that. So it's like you can't expect someone to just sit there and like understand everything about you, know everything about you, comprehend everything, like be able to do everything that you want them to do before it's even expressed, like stuff like that. So yeah,
that comes back to soulmates. I mean, like there's a lot of people out there who believe in this soulmates thing. Oh, that's the person God said I'll be with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, well, no, God's actually going to give you a lot of opportunities to be with a loving woman or man. But it takes a lot of responsibility to say, okay, but I'm going to like be a part of it. So we had the love is patient, love is kind. And what I was trying to say was that I've heard this a lot, but we've taken and we've read this a lot even as a couple. And it was like we'd get in a fight, we'd get in an argument, we'd just not be on the same page about something. And a lot of times it was through text messages, which is frustrating. You should not, guys, do not argue in text messages. Don't do it. Don't do it. Even on the phone, don't, because you know what they're going to do? If they don't like what you're saying, they're going to hang up on you. And then it's just going to make it worse. So don't.
Hey, we're being vulnerable here,
Do
so
not
I know y'all are
argue-
doing that.
Do not argue using these, okay? If you have the ability to, please either meet up, go out somewhere together, just talk together. And first off,
Yeah.
especially if you find yourself right now in a relationship that has Christ at the center, if you're not already doing this, pray right before you talk about whatever you need to talk about.
Yeah.
Before it's an argument. Don't wait. We've so many times we have allowed our flesh to talk first, and we'll say whatever we want to say, and then we're just like very apologetic afterwards, and we're like, well, but we also can't take those hurt words back. But we just say whatever we want because we're like, well, I need to get this off my chest. And we lean in a lot with our feelings instead of the truth. And boom, that's what this says right here. It says, it does not rejoice about injustice, but it rejoices whenever the truth wins out. And so I know that it doesn't say there, it doesn't rejoice when you use your feelings. But a lot of times, our injustice is the same as our feelings. Because we come at something from our perspective together, or like opposing each other, and we'll say, well, this is the way I feel. Well, that's the way I feel. And it may not be what's God's word. It may not actually be like, it's more our feelings or our outlook, but it's not actually what God says. And so we fight for it. And then we look back at truth and we're like, oh,
like, what are we fighting
that
for?
was wrong. Like, I realize now that was that was more what I cared about, but that's not exactly what God's word says. So yeah, we rejoice when the truth wins out. That's love.
Yeah.
It's saying, hey, it may go against what I really want to happen, but it's what God says. So we have to be okay with it. But what I wanted to say, and I love this, is I feel like you can know this, just like you can know Jesus loves you. But it's how are you going to set up your life now to live it out? So just like with Jesus, I can sit there and say like, oh, I asked him in my heart, I'm good. I'm going to go back and just continue to live the way I was, which for a long time, if we're being honest, that's kind of how we treat this relationship. We'd say whatever we wanted to say. We'd read the scriptures. We'd read this to each other. We'd talk about it. And then the next day, the moment we were upset, boom, we just did it. And now we're learning, okay, well, how do you put things in place? Like checking on the other person, saying, hey, are you spiritually ready to talk about this? I have something I want to be vulnerable with you about. That right there, and then praying about it, that right there is such a better way to just be a team and really say, I care more about us together than I care about winning this on my own, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then keeping record of wrongs. I mean, that's been a hard thing because we both got plenty of wrongs. We could sit there for hours and talk about each other's wrongs.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, that's our teammate over there. Are we really, like, what are we doing that for?
Yeah, and I feel like going off of what you said, it's really just picking and choosing your battles because like you were talking about, you are not fighting against each other. And like it is just so important to sit there and really come together and just realize like we are trying to be together the rest of our life.
Yeah.
Like we have already made that commitment. Like that's what we're doing. So it's just like if you know God's word and you know that like what you're trying to approach just isn't, it's just not connecting.
Yeah.
Like you need to sit there and be like, okay, like, I mean, you just
Absolutely.
gotta go off of God's word and just know that, I mean, this is the relationship that we want, what you guys want in your relationship, and I mean, you just really gotta pick
You know
and
what's cool
choose.
though? You and I have been through, I mean, if we actually add them up, we've been through double-digit relationships with other people. Like just, you know, so many different relationships with other people. And some have kind of been confusing because we're like, well, I thought it was going good, or like I thought it was right, or it was really bad. I don't know why I stayed that long. We've been through so many different examples of relationships. But one thing I've learned about that is that when you're sitting there and you might be upset about why is this happening to me? Why am I having to break up with this person? Or why is this relationship ending? God is showing you first of all, he's telling you if you don't want to do it yourself, he's breaking you off from something to save you and help you. But not only that, he's teaching you so many lessons. And it's our opportunity there to learn from them or not. So, yeah, this is about relationships, but it's also about breakups because you and I have both crashed out after relationships, and we've also both tried to figure it out and try and like go the right path afterwards. And so for Alex Eubank crashed out pretty bad in his past relationship.
Oh,
and I'm not
gosh,
trying to
poor
talk bad about
Alex.
him. Freaking love Alex. But that's a
Aw.
great example. Alex Eubank, like, he was really hurt in a relationship. He put a lot in there. Again, we talk about we need to talk about priorities. If you're as a Christian, Jesus is first. So if you put your significant other, whether they're healthy or not, in that first spot, if something goes wrong, who are you then? Like, you put too much into them, and into the value that they bring to you and the happiness that they give you, that when they're gone, you don't know how to live. And I think that's just something he struggled with. I've struggled with it. And so I'll sit there and say, okay, well, I need to go find this happiness somewhere else now that this is over. One of the things the pastor said the other day when he was talking about that is, your priority number one spot needs to be Jesus. And that's where your priority number one spot will be where you get most of your joy from.
Yeah.
So while I enjoy your company, if I'm saying you're my number one spot, I get most of my joy from you. If you, heaven forbid, something happened to you tomorrow, like, who am I then? You know, I don't know. So we're not here to be codependent. We're here to help each other. To be, I love this. Oh my gosh. Can I say something?
Oh, yeah.
So somebody said to me one time, they said, I really don't like the term she or he's my better half. And he said, I'll tell you why. Because when they say that, they're basically claiming that they themselves are not their own person. They're just half a person. They're just half of one thing.
Yeah.
And so while they might be half of a relationship, they're their own whole person. And they're their own whole person who will be going to heaven or hell on their own. And they have their own relationship. Their relationship with God is not determined by who they're with. So they're not your better half. You are your own person. And you bring so much to a relationship with someone else who is their own person. But you cannot use them as the fallback person. Well, if my relationship's not good with God, at least theirs is. So they'll carry me, We're here to learn from each other, to lift each other up, but we have to carry our own weight in some sense. Does that make sense? So in that way, there's no codependency. If something was to happen to one of us, it would break our hearts, but we still know that Jesus is Lord and that Jesus is the number one person in our life.
Yeah.
So
I feel bad because I feel like you just hit all the points every single time.
I did not hit all the points. But okay.
Well, we listened to the same sermon. I remember him talking about that.
All right, next thing, it says love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. There's a lot there. Love is not jealous. So we can't be jealous of each other, which I remember, I'll be vulnerable for a second. We had an argument not too long ago of just some financial things. And I looked at Becca because she was trying to save me from doing something stupid and buying something I shouldn't buy. And my response to her was, well, I feel like you're jealous of me or jealous of the situation that I find myself in. And that was wrong because in the moment I was wondering, why in the world does she care so much? Because this is like my own thing, like my property, I guess. And didn't realize that she was just trying to help me make a smart move. And so I said that to her, and that hurt her feelings because she's like, why would I be jealous of you? I mean, we're together. Like, I mean, in a sense, what yours is mine, what mine is yours. Like, why would you act that way? So don't be jealous and don't claim someone is jealous. Don't do that. But we also, or boastful. So we're not boasting about it. I can't imagine, and that's something we're so good about, I will say. I can't imagine us both sitting there like all the time or even at all, just being like, my job's better than yours, or like, the car I drive just is better than yours. Like, we're not boastful. I don't think that we're like that.
No.
But or proud for that instance. But we've definitely been rude. And I think that's just part of being a human. So, like, it is. We've been rude to each other, and you know what? Sometimes it just happens because, well, we didn't have enough to eat that day, But we've said things that we don't mean, but like therefore, okay, look, just like the 10 Commandments, there's been one on there at least that we've all failed to and we've broken. We're not all perfect, but that's just like this. It's like, I'm going to put, and I think I love this because love is just one aspect of Jesus. I mean, it's who he is. I mean, it is love, but it's one aspect of the faith. And so, but I think it's got such a good not contrast. It's got such good similarities to the Bible with the other commandments. I'm going to give you a picture here. The 10 Commandments, we've all broken them. There's been things that God has said that we've all broken. That's why we're here, and that's why we would literally be on our way to hell if it wasn't for Jesus as a sacrifice. So we're all falling short, if you understand what I'm saying. And sometimes as unbelievers will ask, okay, you guys believe in these 10 Commandments, or you guys believe in these rules or these laws. Why in the world would you put yourself under those laws, or why would God give you those laws if he knows you can't do them? If he knows you can't stay to them? And my answer to them would be, well, he knows we can't, but he also gave us the antidote. He gave us Jesus. He gave us the laws to show us that we are not good enough without a Savior. So in a way, he said, look, you're not perfect, and this is why. I'm giving you this list so that you can see that you will fall short. You're not perfect. No one can do this but me. And so by doing that, he's helping us get humbled. Like, wow, I do need him. And then therefore he points us and says, but Jesus, if you go to him, he will wash away your sins. But similar to that, when we read this, we're reading this list and we're like, oh my gosh, if this is what love is, I guess I don't know love, right? Well, that's not true. We don't follow we're not all perfect Christians as far as like doing everything perfectly.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we don't know Jesus. So in the same way, this is just like, you're not going to be perfect at this, but this is a great way of like learning. And if you look at Jesus' life, man, it's every single one of these down to the T, every single one. I mean, how many times did Jesus celebrate when things went right, when things went according to the truth? I mean, it's like, or slow to anger. Like,
yeah,
he had a lot of things to be angry about.
Yeah, and sometimes he even did get angry.
Yeah, and you know what? It's called righteous anger. I mean, he tore apart the church when it was being misused to, help greedy people, collect money. But he did that in the name of God. Mm-hmm. And he said, this is my Father's house you're doing this in. Like, I can't even imagine. I mean, that'd be like me walking back to my house and some kids in there just doing whatever he wants, like making a mess. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is not...
Yeah.
But anyways, I think it's important that we realize that when we're reading this, we don't need to sit there and be like, wow, the person I'm with doesn't do any of these. I mean, they suck. Like, it's not like that. This is such a hard list to accomplish.
Yeah.
But you know what? You look for these qualities in yourself or work on them when you're single, or you look for them and you work on them with your relationship. And I promise you, especially if you set up the right system of how to accomplish it more, it's going to be very beneficial for you. But I mean, that's obviously just one passage about love. There's so much about love. There's a video on here that I made a while back about filling each other's cups, and I actually used real cups. You know about the cups. Walk me through that.
Just like filling each other's cups?
What does it mean?
I mean, I actually don't know if I watched that video. But not that matters, but like, yeah. I feel like with me and just like filling each other's cup, I feel like even last week.
What does filling each other's cup mean? What is the idea? What's that metaphor? Help the viewers who have no idea what we're talking about.
I was going to say my example.
Well, what does filling a cup mean? Are we a cup?
No. Well, I mean, we can't.
Metaphorically, maybe.
I was going to talk about our situation last week about like when we were sick. And
go.
yeah, I know.
You got it.
I was gonna cook. Okay. Okay. Anyways, so I was at his house, and both of us, I think for the past like week or so, we're kind of just going back and forth, not feeling well.
Yeah.
And one of the times, he got me sick recently, and when I got sick, I happened to be at his house at one of the last days. And I kind of just looked at him and I was like, I got about 5% in me. I was like, yeah.
I know what you're saying.
And I was kind of just looking at him like, I honestly really need you to just be this 95% with me. Like, and just like really opening to him about what was going on with me. Obviously, I didn't feel well. Like, I didn't even want to go to the gym that day. And, like, kind of just making it obvious that, like, it just wasn't, like, a good day for me. And that was obviously physically, but I know there's been, like, other times, like, mentally, spiritually, that, like, I mean, we've had that conversation. Like, you've come to me sometimes, like, when you haven't been.
There's been times where one of us is stronger spiritually and the other one's like, hey, like, pray for me more. Like, we need prayer. Like, I mean, but, that what you just said, like about the percentage one's a really good one because it's a good one to kind of measure out. You know, I'm talking to you, but to measure out like this is how much I might need out of you. Like like we both come in with 100%, right? But say you got drained at work or something, now you're at 50 and you tell me, hey, I got 50. So I said, you know what? I'll be 150 right now. I'll be your other 50 and my 100 because I'm there. And you know what? But what I love is that when you're at 50 and if neither one of us are 100, right?
I was going to ask you about this, but you keep talking.
So the reason that this whole percentage thing came from just a reel I saw from this Christian couple online. And they were talking about how we tell each other, like we've got busy lives. Someone walks in and says, hey, I got 10%. And the other one jumps right up and says, hey, I got your 90. But if either one of them look at each other and say, hey, I've got 50, and the other one says, I got 30, hypothetically, if neither one of them are at 100, then they need to sit down, drop what they're doing, sit down, and talk about how they can get back up to 100. Because that means they both need help, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're here to help each other out. And that's a great other way of putting the cup thing. But I also want to mention the cup one because it is a little bit different. Just because I think that, so when I talk about filling cups, and I'll explain this to you because I've said it, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine you and I, we have 2 cups. Okay, or you have a cup and I have a cup. So now we have 2 cups in this relationship. And we walk in each day with our cups about halfway full, right? So now we've got our cups. You spill. Let's just say hypothetically you go through something difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I have what you need, and I see that. And I say, well, I want to help you out, so I pour into you. Literally, that's what we say. Like when we say, like, I want to pour into someone, you're pouring into the other person.
Okay.
But therefore, you're out now, or you're lower, way lower.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a constant understanding of the fact that by the way, if you're watching this, if someone's watching this right now, and they find themselves, now, really, really talk to your partner about this. Don't just make this assumption on your own, because maybe they feel the same way oppositely. But if you find yourself in a relationship where you're the one who says, my cup is constantly pouring and I'm constantly empty. Anytime I get energy, I'm pouring into them and they're just saying they're sitting back and
taking it all
in.
Yeah.
But a relationship comes down to, okay, they helped me here, but you have to do it back.
Yeah.
If you don't, there again, you're not a team. You want both each other to be filled. You may not be completely filled, either one of you. Yeah. But at least you're pouring back into the other person. So it's a good pattern to think about because it's like, well, look, I've realized that for the past year, all I've done for him is just this. And it's not just about the things you do, but it's the emotional part of things, the spiritual part of things. I don't see him pouring into me. I don't see that he really loves me or she really is showing up for me. Then that's a conversation you need to have with them. Because I will tell you this, you will probably find yourself in a situation where you may come to them and say, hey, I feel like my cup's empty all the time and I'm really pouring in you. And they say, I feel the same way. So then you got to sit down and have that conversation like, okay, well, and this is where it comes back to love languages. Maybe both of them think they're doing what they need to do, but they're both hitting on the wrong level. They're both saying, well, I'm giving you this, but that's not what I need. Well, I'm giving you that, but I don't need that. You know, they might be giving, They might be giving effort, but they might be missing where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that comes back to understanding and learning about your person. And really,
so I'm so glad that we talked about it, because that has literally changed so much about our relationship.
That takes communication. We would sit there so many times in arguments and say, look, if we would just communicate, this wouldn't happen. And then we don't learn how to communicate. Mm-hmm. Long story short, you can't just say something. You have to actually figure out a way to get through it or do it. So I can't just say to you, hey, we need to communicate better. I need to say, hey, let's figure out a plan on when we're frustrated or when we need to really just have a serious conversation. How are we going to communicate? Yeah. What do we need to say to each other to realize, okay, that needs to happen? Mm-hmm. Other than just expecting. There's a big thing about expectations, expecting the other person to just know. Mm-hmm. So, do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I 100% agree with you. I feel like just making sure at the end of the day that we're communicating about these things and really just being super vulnerable, because vulnerability is something that I've learned about so much in this relationship too. Yeah. And it's not even just relationships. It could be with your family, it could be with your friends, just opening up about what you really want and what you really need is really important, because you can't read minds. There's so many things where people disconnect on so many different levels, and I know sometimes it's a lot harder for some people than others, but it definitely is really important.
Man, a relationship takes work and effort. Mm-hmm. Listen, I know people that are Christians that think a relationship works where you just need them to, you just expect. Yeah. You think it's fun, you think it'll be entertaining, you think it'll be, but let me ask you this.
And it will be sometimes.
It will be, but when you're both putting in that work and that effort to do that. It's great if someone plans a date or the other person plans a date and it didn't take both people to do that. Mm-hmm. That's just pouring into someone's cup. Yeah. But it takes both of you putting in effort. And this is what I'll say about that part though. If you are a Christian and you say, I live for Jesus, and you do find yourself kind of reflecting and saying, all right, the way I look at relationships is, what do I get out of it, right? Well, let me tell you something.
It's not about you.
Look back at your relationship with you and Jesus and say, okay, if I didn't put work into this relationship, where would my relationship with him be? Because it's the same way. Yeah. If you sit there, and we've both been through these seasons very recently where we won't open our Bibles. We don't, like Jesus says, die to the cross daily. We just kind of just go through the motions. And then we look back and we're like, wow, I feel far from God. Well, of course you do. You weren't putting in the work. We weren't putting in the work to do that. And so it's the same way as your relationship. You sit there and say, I don't feel like he loves me, or I don't feel like she's really there anymore. I just feel like we're just drifting away. Well, maybe that's because you are not putting in any effort, or maybe, and you're just expecting it to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a really good parallel. Before we close, let me ask you something. What would be a good piece of advice you'd give to someone who is single right now, hoping for a godly person to be in their life soon, or a relationship to form out of something?
I would highly recommend that you have that firm foundation with the Lord, because piggybacking off of what he said, like, even a relationship with the Lord requires effort. Like, you have to sit there and show him, I'm going to do this, not just because I'm wanting all these good things, I'm wanting this everlasting life, but because I love you, and
Right.
I really love and appreciate the fact that you died on the cross for me, and you rose again, and you have forgiven so many more times than probably every single person on this earth combined. So it's just like having that firm foundation with the Lord, and really just knowing that, like, if you can't have that relationship, that constant, like, all loving, vulnerable, every single emotion with him, then
How you can do that with someone else?
yeah. I mean,
like
that's it.
If you can't be vulnerable with a person that knows you more than you know yourself, how are you going to be vulnerable with someone else that starts out as a stranger? So, like, yeah, I think that was great advice. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please comment down below. Be nice in the comments. This is our first time doing this.
I feel like a YouTuber doing that.
Okay. Subscribe to the channel. Please thumbs it up, and please, please, please share this. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to spread the love of Jesus. So please share. And just remember, like, this will not always be about relationships or love. We're gonna have plenty of guests on. We're gonna have all kinds of different stories and topics to talk about. So please just plug in and just hopefully you learn something, or you just are entertained. That's the goal. So yeah, just reach out to us if you want to be a guest as well. That'd be awesome. To kind of get some candidates for that. But
we do have an Instagram. We just made it, so we will be putting
it's
that
at
in
the
comments
cross.
just in
Yep.
case. Yeah.
Yep. We'll put that in the links below.